10 minutes. Sound Lab. Hello lovely people, welcome back to the second episode of 10 Minute Sound Lab, and today we're gonna dive into Serum 2 and create a powerful bass preset patch from scratch. This patch is super versatile, it's perfect for genres like PsyTech, PsyProg, DarkProg, Zenonesque, but it also works beautiful for side-up, PsyBass, Downtempo, dark psy, forest, techno and beyond, yeah, you name it. It might become, for you like it is for me, the one go-to starting patch you'll always come back to. And by the way, this video also is connected to one of my earliest tutorials, the Swampy Bassline Tutorial, where somebody commented and asked me that it would be helpful to create a patch from scratch, step by step. Well, here we go, let's dive into it. Okay, before we create this patch from scratch, let me give you some sound examples what this patch can actually do. And by the way, all of these bass lines, different style, yes, but they all are created with the same Serum 2 preset patch, of course. The variation is only in the MIDI notes and the macros and some automations. Let's have a listen. Awesome, nice. And let me also show you here now what we're gonna create. This will be the patch, and I'll show you quickly the different macros. So macro 1, for example, is for the clickiness of the bass line. With macro 4, we can add another layer and also change the clickiness. Macro 2 is controlling the filter. With macro 3, we can add different layers. Awesome. With macro 5, we can create a super nice psychedelic Haas effect. This is super nice for pluggy bass lines. With macro 6, we can create out of the bass line a dimensional 3D stereo bass line. With macro 7, we can also control the filter and control the plugginess and the sound, the shape of the bassline. And with macro 8, we can do out of a pluggy bassline a squelchy bassline. And there are even more hidden features and possibilities in this patch. In this video, I will show you some, especially 2 amazing tricks we can do with Serum 2. The second one in the end of the video, or already can tell you this will be the second part, the next video. And yeah, let's start with that one in 10 minutes. Honestly, this will be a super challenge, a huge challenge for me to show you this in 10 minutes with my students, for example, where we dive deep into sound design and creating patches like this. We need whole sessions, 1 to 2 hours, but I will give my best to show you this in 10 minutes Sound Lab, creating a powerful bass patch from scratch. Let's start. Let's initialize the preset. Let's open up here sub oscillator 1 octave down. You can lower the volume here and increase the volume of Serum 2. Oscillator A will be a sawtooth wave, also 1 octave down. Open the wavetable editor, cut out the first harmonic because that one will be covered by the sub oscillator, and with the volume knobs here you can control the loudness of the harmonies of the frequencies. Super important is that we go with random phasing all the way down to 0, because of course we want to have every bass hit, every MIDI note starting at the same phasing position. Super important for, of course, pluggy bass lines and when it comes to kick and bass phase alignment. Second important step is the filter. We have here 4 basic high-cut or low-pass filters, 6, 12, 18 and 24 dB per octave. I like to go with the 24 dB. Let's increase a little bit the drive, a little bit of fatness maybe, and of course you can play around with the resonance. But we keep it like this. Before we continue controlling and shaping the filter, third important step is the envelope. So envelope 1 always mapped to the amp of the synthesizer of Serum 2. What we don't want to do is a high cut release, because then we have this subtle click at the end of the MIDI note. You can hear it. So do at least a little bit of release. But I like to do even more, because this means that one MIDI note and one bass note can affect the other note and change the sound and the shape of the bass line. And especially when it comes to sustained bass lines for PsyTech, Zenonesque styles or whatever, is a super nice trick. So this note affects the next note and so on. So let's have a listen. Yeah, super nice trick for movement in your bass line. You can do in envelope 1 a shape like something like so. Awesome. Let's jump back to the filter. Let's go with the filter cutoff all the way down, something between 20 to 30 Hertz. And now we map macro 2 to the cutoff and we can control here the filter. To add this plugginess of the bass line, we need to control now the filter with a quick open and closing. Super important technique, and maybe you have seen this in other YouTube tutorials and videos where the people are using envelopes for this technique. Nice, that's okay, but I like to use an LFO therefore. Why? Because here I can draw in a different shape which I can't do with an envelope. And also I can control here these different dots. You will see this later on. So let's do LFO1 as an envelope, map this here to the filter cutoff in unipolar mode, go with this dot here with the starting point all the way to the left. You can keep the rate on 1/4 because the length of this opening and closing we will control with macro 7. And now with macro 7 we can control this technique, this opening filter and the time. Very nice. Now we take macro 8 and map this to the X curve of this starting point. Let's go into the matrix here and go all the way up in unipolar mode. And now we can create out of this pluggy bassline a squelchy bassline. And now you can also see why this is important, where to map the direction of the second macro 7. So in this way, they are open and closing opposite way. When you do this the other way around, it's opening and closing in the same way. I hope you get it. Next, we want to control the clickiness, and therefore we use macro 1. So let's go into the matrix where LFO1 is controlling the filter cutoff, and we say as an aux source only when we tweak macro 1, which now means that macro 1 is also controlling the opening of this filter of this pluggy bassline. And as I have shown you, macro 1 is for the clickiness. So we go into the effects section, we add an equalizer, we map here macro 1 to the high shelf volume in bipolar mode, Option and Shift by the way. Let's put this down like so, 50%. Let's go with the frequency around 600 Hertz and also map macro 1 here and do a shape like so. And now we can control the loudness of the click. Super nice. We want to add now another layer to the bassline and shape the click, say it like so. So open noise oscillator, you can go here with one of these kick samples. I like to go with kick number 12, but you can be creative and drag and drop different percussion samples, for example, bongo hits, hi-hat samples, conga hits, clicky sounds, whatever. Be creative. Also, you can play around with the pitch. Then, of course, go to one-shots and we can add a layer to it. Let's go now to envelope 2, do a shape like something like so, map this to the level of the noise oscillator, go to envelope 3, do a slightly different shape than envelope 2, and map this also to the level of the noise oscillator. And now we say we go into the matrix. Here where envelope 2 and 3 are controlling the noise levels. We want to say as an aux source only when we tweak macro 4, because we don't want to have this effect all the time. We want to control the loudness. And here now with macro 4 we can add this layer and control the loudness. And of course you can also control the loudness, how much you want to have the effect, like so. Okay, super nice, but that's not all. Of course, we want to control the filter even more. Let's go a step further. With velocity, normally we control the loudness of the synth, of the output. So normally we go into the matrix, map velocity to the global amp and so on. But what I like to do is I like to map velocity to the filter cutoff, do a shape like so, which now means the higher the velocity, the more the filter is opening. And we can have a listen here. You see I have a rolling bass line where I open up the velocity and it sounds like so. Super nice, and we have now already a lot of possibilities to shape the bassline sound, but of course that's not all. I want to show you now a super nice, I don't know if it's secret, I haven't seen this yet anywhere, but a super nice trick. By the way, if you want to level up your music production, whether your goal is to build a career or create amazing tracks and dance floor bangers, I'm Fabian URKLANG, the founder of the URKLANG Academy, a professional academy for electronic dance music, specialized in Psytrance and all its subgenres, but also styles like techno, house, and yeah, beyond, you name it. It's a complete, holistic, and personal coaching and mentoring program designed to take your music to the next level. So if you're interested in, hit me up. We're gonna have a free Zoom call. I'll explain everything about my mentoring programs in detail, and we can explore your goals and wishes to fully support you in bringing your music to the next level. Looking forward to hear from you, but now let's dive back to the topic. For this super special trick, we need to go into the effects section, but before I show you this trick, let's put in here a compressor, and we want to control the dynamic range, add a little bit of makeup gain. Let's go with a fast attack, a ratio like 6:1, for example, and now we have control over the loudness, over the dynamic range. Because of course, also with the velocity in every setting here, we have different loudness of the bassline. So with the compressor, we control the dynamic range. And now this super special, nice trick in Serum 2, and therefore I love Serum 2, and you can do this also, this trick, by the way, with the Serum 2 effects and add the effects plugin somewhere in another channel. Here we have splitters, low, high, low, mid, high, and mid side splitter. Sadly, we can only put on one splitter. For this trick, I like to use the low, mid, high splitter, and you can see now they are grayed out, because sometimes I like to add a mid side splitter after a low, mid, high splitter. But that's another topic, and we can also do this with an EQ. So if you're interested in how, let me know, comment, and I can show you and show you this and make a video out of it. So for this trick, as I said, I use a low, mid, high splitter. With the crossovers here, 210 Hertz from lows to mids is okay. And here from mids to highs, we go from 1K to 7K, 7000 Hertz. Next, we go into the mids and add a hyperdimension. Let's go here, put the mix all the way down, take macro 6 and map it to the mix of the hyperdimension. And now we can create out of a mono bassline a 3D stereo bassline. super nice, only for the mids. And for the highs, we implement now this Haas effect. And for those who don't know, Haas effect, super nice technique in general, but also super nice technique for pluggy bass lines. It adds this subtle psychedelic magic to it. What is a Haas effect? We split the signal into the left and right channel, and one of these channels we add a little bit of delay. We can't split the signal, but we can add and create this effect with a, yes, of course, with a delay. Here we go with milliseconds all the way down, both, and one of these left or right channel we add a little bit of delay, something between 3 to 15 milliseconds. The faster your track, the higher the BPM, the faster should be the delay, so the lower this value here. I go with 10 milliseconds. Let's go with the feedback all the way down to 0, which doesn't, by the way, mean that there is no delay. There is a kind of a slapback, a one-time delay. And for this Haas effect, we need to put the mix all the way up to 100%. We can hear it's really subtle, but we can see it here. So we want to hear it more and have control over the loudness. So let's add here an equalizer. And now with the gain, kaboom. So what we're gonna do is mix from the delay all the way down. Let's take macro 5 and map it to the mix of the delay, also to the high shelf gain here in unipolar mode, 50% around. You can also go with the frequency a little bit down and map the macro 5 here, something like so. And now we can control the loudness, but we have the problem that because the Haas effect is only working when mix of the delay is on 100%, it doesn't react immediately. And there is a super nice workaround and technique in Serum 2. Let's go to the matrix where macro 5 is controlling the delay, wet, dry, and here in the curve, double click it, and we draw in a shape like so. This means that as soon as I tweak macro 5, it jumps to 100%. You can also see this here. Look at what's going on here. So as soon as I tweak it, it jumps to 100%. This means the Haas effect is on, and with the macro 5, we can control the loudness over this Haas effect. Super nice. And with macro 5 and 6, we can now create 3D psychedelic dimensional stereo basslines. Awesome. But that's not all. Of course, we can go even further and add more functions to shape the bassline. But this I will show you in the next video, in the second part of the video, because we can now also play around with the filter movement. We can add different layers, play around with the MIDI notes. But yeah, as I said, next video, 10 minutes sound lab. Pre-prepared. This will be awesome too. And yeah, I hope you liked that one. This is kind of the starting preset patch I'm using since many, many years. Of course, in Serum 1, we had a more difficult workaround because we only had 4 macros. Now we have 8 macros. And of course, when you have Serum 1, you also have the upgrade to Serum 2. So now you have more possibilities. And this one is, yeah, the starting patch. You can go here inside and change, for example, the wavetable. You can change the noise sample, the noise oscillator sample, the filter, and so on. So pre-prepared for the next video. This will be awesome. And if you like this so far, please, guys, subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications for upcoming videos. There will be more 10 minutes sound lab videos and other videos. Comment what you think so far about this patch here. Also, what you want to see next in next episodes. Share the video. You know, it helps me a lot so I can create more content for you guys. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see you in the next episode, in the second part of this bassline patch. And I wish you a wonderful day. And as always, stay musically.